Imagine a world where the faith of the nations, the decisions of leaders, and the hidden truths behind major historical events are all influenced and perhaps manipulated by an incredibly powerful and secretive organization that runs in the shadows. This secret society, wrapped in mystery and speculations, is known by a name that instantly calls up curiosity: the Illuminati. During the 18th century, a time with all the kings and empires in Europe, when voices of revolution filled the air, a secret society emerged. The Illuminati's goal was straightforward: to guide history away from superstition and tyranny, moving towards free thinking and enlightenment. All these visions were born from a man who dared to imagine a new world order, guided by the light of reason and enlightenment. In this video, we'll peel off the layers to reveal the true story of Johann Adam Weishaupt, the factors that drove him to found the Illuminati, and how his revolutionary ideas challenged the very foundations of society, even until today. Perhaps you will wonder, was his plan all a visionary hope for a better future, or a darker agenda and intentions? Born in 1748 in Bavaria, in what is now Germany, Johann Adam Weishaupt's story begins in an era bursting with revolution and new ideas. Weishaupt lost his father when he was just a young boy. This loss had an intense impact on him, but it also led to an opportunity that would shape his future. His godfather, a law professor, took him under his wing and ensured that he received a distinct education. Weishaupt was a bright and extraordinary student. He attended a Jesuit school where he was exposed to a perceptive education. The Jesuits were known for their emphasis on discipline and a deep dive into the classics. However, it was also a time when the church held tight control over what could be taught and discussed. This environment was double-edged for Weishaupt, giving him a solid foundation in critical thinking and exposed him to the wealth of human knowledge, but also showed him the limits imposed by authority on free thought. As Weishaupt grew older, he entered the University of Ingolstadt. Here his world expanded further. He was exposed to the Enlightenment, a powerful intellectual movement spreading across Europe. Thinkers like Voltaire, Rousseau, and Locke were challenging the old norms and proposing radical ideas about freedom, democracy, and individual rights. These ideas resonated with Weishaupt, who had already experienced firsthand the suffocating effects of absolute control over education and thought. The intellectual and social climate of 18th century Europe was like a bubble waiting to explode. Across the continent, people were beginning to question the divine rights of kings, the role of the church in government, and the inequalities of the social order. It was a time with great possibilities. For Weishaupt, however, these were not just abstract concepts. They were deeply personal challenges to the world he lived in. He saw around him a society bound by tradition and authority, resistant to change and hostile to new ideas. But he also saw a new path forward, a way to use the power of enlightenment to illuminate the minds of others and perhaps to change the world. The Enlightenment philosophers argued that humanity could progress and improve through the use of reason and science, rather than relying on tradition or religious teachings. These ideas were like a breeze of fresh air for Weishaupt. These philosophers challenged the very foundations of society, questioned the absolute power of kings and the church, advocating for a world where people's rights and freedoms were respected. For Weishaupt, these weren't just magnificent ideals, they were a call to action. He saw around him a society bound by outdated beliefs and unfair power structures that suppress human potential and freedom. The church, in particular, held immense influence over people's lives, dictating not just their spiritual beliefs, but often their access to knowledge and participation in state. However, embracing these thoughts also meant recognizing the deep weakness in the institutions. Weishaupt became increasingly condemning of the church's role in suppressing free thought. He saw the state's plotting with the church as a barrier to enlightenment and progress. His critics were not just academic, they were emotionally felt. Weishaupt believed that for humanity to advance, it needed to dismiss the chains of teachings and absolute control. Reason and enlightenment should guide society, not the desire of rulers or the dictates of religious leaders. This realization was the spark that ignited Weishaupt's desire to create change. He understood that ideas alone were not enough. To truly make a difference, these ideas needed a platform, a way to spread and take root in society. This led him to come up with the idea of Illuminati, a secret society that could work from the shadows to promote Enlightenment ideals. The Illuminati would be made up of a network of enlightened minds dedicated to the cause of reason and progress, working together to influence society's direction away from superstition and tyranny. In Weishaupt's vision, the Illuminati would be the catalyst for a new age of enlightenment. It was an ambitious, even revolutionary idea, but it was born from a genuine belief in the power of Enlightenment philosophies to transform society. Weishaupt's critics were not just challenges to authority, they were an appeal to the best of what humanity could achieve through reason and collective actions. In 1776, Weishaupt established this secret society with ambitions that were as grand as they were revolutionary. Weishaupt was extremely aware of the risk involved in promoting ideas that challenged the already established order. The church and state exercised immense power, and disagreement was often met with harsh retaliations. This secret society then offered a way to discuss and spread Enlightenment ideals without direct confrontation with authorities. It was a strategy born of necessity but fueled by a vision of an unchained, enlightened world. The Illuminati's initial goals were ambitious. Weishaupt was determined to promote reason and enlightenment over superstition and religious influence in public life. He believed that enlightening the minds of influential individuals, his secret society could eventually bring about significant societal reforms. The Illuminati searched for patrons for education, personal freedom, and rational thought, aiming to dismantle the structures that kept society bound to outdated traditions and oppressive rule. To achieve these goals, the Illuminati needed a powerful structure and methods of operation that ensured secrecy and loyalty. Weishaupt came up with a complex hierarchy for the society, inspired in part by the Freemasons. Members were organized into different ranks, each with its own set of responsibilities and knowledge about the society's workings. New members were carefully evaluated and initiated through elaborate ceremonies designed to test their commitment to Enlightenment ideals. Secrecy was paramount. The Illuminati operated mysteriously, using incognito for members and communicating through coded letters. This secrecy was not just to protect members from external threats, but also to create a sense of unity and purpose within the group. It was a world apart from the rest of society, where like-minded individuals could pursue their ideals freely. The founding of the Illuminati marked the beginning of what Weishaupt hoped would be a new era of enlightenment. He envisioned a network of enlightened minds working together to influence policy, promote education, and reform society from within. It was a true bold vision, and the Illuminati set out with determination to turn it into reality. At the heart of Weishaupt's belief was the idea that reason and knowledge should be the guiding principles of society. He fantasizes of an enlightened world where logic and science conquer over superstition and ignorance. This was a radical departure from the society of his time, which was heavily influenced by religious teachings and ruled by autocracy that often suppressed intellectual freedom. Weishaupt saw the potential for humanity to progress, to create societies that were just, rightful, and free. But for this to happen, the chains of the old order had to be broken. The influence of the church and the autocratic power of the state needed to be cut down, allowing for a new era where people's rights and freedoms were harmonized and respected, and governance was based on rational principles. Yet, the path to enlightenment was anything but smooth. The Illuminati, under Weishaupt's guidance, faced significant challenges and controversies, from external pressures to internal conflicts. From the outset, the Illuminati attracted the inspection and rage of powerful entities. The Church, with its deep-rooted influence over European society, viewed Weishaupt's ideals and the goals of Illuminati as a direct threat to its authority. The Enlightenment principles of free thought and questioning of traditional beliefs were contrary to the Church control over religious and moral guidance. Similarly, the state, particularly in Bavaria, where the Illuminati was founded, saw the secret society as a challenge to its power. The royals and state officials feared the spread of revolutionary ideas that could weaken their rule. The Illuminati's call for reform, transparency, and democracy was seen as provocative, leading to a ruthless crackdown on its members. These measures critically restricted the Illuminati's activities and forced the group to operate with even greater secrecy. Within the Illuminati, the situation was even more complicated. As the society grew, so did the diversity of its members' beliefs and visions for the future. Not all agreed with Weishaupt's approach or his interpretation of Enlightenment principles. Some looked for more radical changes, while others were cautious, fearing the consequences of moving too rapidly against established institutions. Weishaupt's leadership style also became a point of argument. His vision of the Illuminati was clear, but his method of achieving it through strict control over the society structure and secrecy led to even more disagreements. Some members viewed Weishaupt as too repressive, ironically mirroring the structures of power the Illuminati pursued to challenge. These internal conflicts were magnified by the external pressures facing the Illuminati. The government and church crackdown not only limited the society's ability to operate, but also fueled paranoia and mistrust among its members. This climate made it difficult for Weishaupt to maintain solidarity and focus within the group, leading to splits and dissolution of the Illuminati in its original form. Despite these challenges, the legacy of Weishaupt and the Illuminati continues to spark interest and debate. The society's ambitious goals and the controversies it stirred reflect the stormy nature of a period at the edge of modern democracy and the enduring struggle for enlightenment and freedom. Weishaupt's vision for a world governed by reason over belief and his commitment to this cause, despite the obstacles, remains a testament to his leadership and the ideals of the Enlightenment. Through the Illuminati, Weishaupt aimed to eliminate the darkness of ignorance and absolutism, a goal that, despite the society's short-lived existence, continues to resonate in the quest for truth and justice. The fall of the Illuminati began when the electorate of Bavaria, distressed by the whispers of a secret society with radical ideas and significant influence, decided to act decisively. In 1784 and 1785, the Bavarian government issued a decree banning all secret societies, not just the Illuminati. This crackdown was fueled by fear of sabotage and the potential disruption of the social and religious order. Members of the Illuminati were hunted, their documents seized, and their practices exposed. This governmental intervention put the public in panic, casting the Illuminati into the shadows from which it will never fully emerge. Together with this disorder, Adam Weishaupt found himself a target. His vision for the Illuminati, once a representation of enlightenment and progress, now marked him as an enemy of the state and the church. Facing threats and arrest, Weishaupt was forced to flee Bavaria. He searched for refuge in the city of Gotha, under the protection of Duke Ernest II of Saxe-Gotha-Altenburg, a known supporter of Enlightenment ideas. It was here that Weishaupt spent the remainder of his days, continuing his academic pursuits and writing, though his dreams of the Illuminati reshaping the world had been shattered. The Illuminati, despite its short existence, left an unforgettable mark on history and the collective imagination. The society's goals of enlightenment, freedom from superstition, and the encouragement of rational thought and free will echoed the broader aspirations of the Age of Enlightenment. Even as the Illuminati disbanded, these ideas continued, influencing the revolutionary movements that swept through Europe and America in the late 18th and early 19th centuries. Adam Weishaupt's legacy is somewhat complicated. On one hand, he is seen as a visionary who dared to imagine a world governed by reason and equality. His criticisms of dictator rule and imperious religion laid the groundwork for modern democratic and profane thought. On the other hand, the secretive nature of the Illuminati and the controversies surrounding its practices have caused endless conspiracy theories and speculations that continue to this day. The Illuminati has become a symbol of hidden power and influence, a mythos that go beyond the original intentions of its founder. It is clear that his ideas about freedom and rational have had a lasting influence, inspiring thinkers and movements long after the Illuminati's disappearance from the official history record. These enduring ideas have discharged into various phases of modern political and cultural dialogue, proving that the seeds of enlightenment Weishaupt planted continued to grow, even though often in an unexpected ways. As we wrap up our story about Adam Weishaupt and the secret society he started, we come back to the big question we asked at the beginning. Was Weishaupt's plan a hopeful dream for a better world? Or is it with a darker, hidden purpose? We've seen that Weishaupt wanted to change the world for the better, using ideas about freedom and reason. He hoped that by spreading these ideas, society would improve. This sounds like a dream for a brighter future. However, the fact that his group, The Illuminati was so secretive has made some people wonder if there was more to his plans. This secrecy has led to many stories and theories that suggest there might have been a darker side to what he was doing. These two sides of the story show us how complicated it can be when someone tries to make revolutionary changes. It makes us think about the balance between having good intentions and how those intentions are put into action. As we think about Weishaupt's impact, it challenges us to look at our own world. How often do good plans end up being overshadowed by the ways they are carried out? And how do we find the right balance between being open and keeping things private as we try to make things better? What do you guys think? Share your opinions in the comments. Other than that, we hope that this story makes you think more deeply and ask more questions about the truth behind the stories we hear. Do consider liking and subscribing to us, and see you in the next video.